Hey, third grade. So, for those of you that are following along daily with me, I told you that your test was on page 194, and that's incorrect. It's actually page 150. I was skipping to the next chapter's test. That's not good. So, anyway, 150. If you haven't yet, the test is on page 150, and you'll tear it out of your book and turn it in with your packet with Mrs. Dale. Um, and now we're going to move on to chapter 4 and talk about animals. Yay! Um, and so we're on lesson 1. It's on page 160 in your books. The experiment that is listed in here is a fun one, and it's interesting. But the only thing is, I don't ever see this kind of pasta around, and I wouldn't even know where to think to buy gummy lifesaver things. Is that just me? Do I just not know where to buy candy? Um, but anyway, if you happen to have those things around or know how to source them, it's kind of a fun little thing. And it is cool because that's very similar to how your backbone works. You've got that soft tissue in between each one of those actual bones. So if you can, cool. If you can't, no. Yeah. All right, so we're going to move on to classifying animals. Up here it says, tell which characteristics you think can help you classify each animal. Well, so if I look at this guy, he's the only one that has fur. This guy's the only one with feathers. This guy's aquatic. He's a bug. That's a terrible way to describe him. He's an insect, isn't he? Looks like he's got 6 legs. Yep. I'm sure there are other ways that you could classify them, right? And we'll talk about those different ways. We've got a couple of words to know. Trait, vertebrate, invertebrate, and arthropod. All right, so let's get into it. Animals are classified into groups. Animals can be classified by what we want to learn about them. Animals can also be classified by how they look. Scientists identify body features such as long ears, short fur to classify animals. A feature passed on to a living thing from its parents is called a trait, a feature. So let's say that you have brown eyes, like one of your parents. That is a trait that you have inherited. Perhaps you have the same color hair as one of your parents, or when you grow to be an adult, you're a very similar height to your parents, right? Those would be traits. Same shape nose. Maybe you have really tiny hands like me. Neither one of my parents has particularly tiny hands. I don't know. Yeah. So I don't know who I inherited that trait from. Anyway, traits can include an animal's behavior or its physical characteristics. Animals can also be classified by where they live or how they act. Fish, where he lives, right? I said he was an aquatic animal, meaning he lives in the water. One animal can be placed into different groups. For an example, a group of animals that eat mice include snakes, hawks, and owls. A group of animals that fly can include hawks and owls, but not snakes. All right, so what is another reason you might not classify a snake with hawks and owls? Plenty of reasons I can think of, right? Teeth have snakes. That's what I was about to say. Oh my gosh. So sorry. You understand. Animals with backbones. Fancy word, vertebrates. One main characteristic scientists use to classify animals is whether or not they have a backbone. An animal with a backbone is called a vertebrate. Good job. For example, cats, birds, and fish are vertebrates. Vertebrates may look different, but they all have a backbone and other bones. Bones grow as the animals grow. Bones support the body. This allows some vertebrates to go very big, like elephants, rhinoceros, whales. And what allows a giraffe to grow so tall? Oh, I don't know. What structure did we just talk about that allows animals to grow very large? You can answer that. Don't want you to do number 4 or 5. And then we're going to go to groups of vertebrates. Fish. Fish are vertebrates that live in water. Most fish have slippery scales, breathe through gills, and lay eggs. Fish are cold-blooded vertebrates. Draw a fish. Please do. Amphibians. Amphibians are cold-blooded vertebrates. They have smooth, moist skin. They hatch from eggs. Frogs, toads, and salamanders are amphibians. Most young amphibians live in the water, like tadpoles. They get oxygen through their gills and skin. Most amphibians develop lungs to breathe air out of the water. Reptiles. Snakes, lizards, turtles, and crocodiles are reptiles. Reptiles are cold-blooded vertebrates. They have dry, scaly skin. They breathe air through lungs, and most reptiles lay eggs. So here, this one, I want you to share this picture with me. Draw a reptile and tell me what kind of reptile you drew. That's for your response. Okay, so I want you to do, oh, look at my drawing. It's so cute. I drew this because it's my favorite. You don't sound like that, but you get the idea. Birds. Birds are warm-blooded vertebrates with feathers and bills. Feathers help the birds stay warm. Wings and light bones help most birds fly. They breathe air through lungs, and all birds hatch from eggs. And everyone's favorite, the mammal group, because humans are mammals. Vertebrates you probably know the best are mammals. Mammals are warm-blooded vertebrates. They usually have hair that keeps them warm, and mammals breathe air through lungs and feed milk to their young. Most mammals are born alive instead of hatching from an egg. Fun fact, dolphin babies are born with hair on their muzzle, their snout, because they are mammals. And another fun fact, oh gosh, what kind of whale is it? Oh, a humpback whale? The whale with all the bumps. I think it's a humpback. Those bumps are actually hair follicles, and sometimes they'll have actual hair growing from them. Weird, right? All right, now we're getting into the big group, invertebrates. Invertebrates make up 90% of all animals. Huge. All right, animals without backbones. Most animals do not have backbones or skeletons inside their body. Animals without backbones are called invertebrates. Sea stars, butterflies, spiders are invertebrates. Invertebrates have structures other than bones to give them their shape. A soft sac filled with liquid supports worms and sea jellies. A hard shell supports clams and lobsters. Insects have a hard covering on the outside of their bodies. These kinds of structures cannot support a very big animal. Most invertebrates are smaller than most vertebrates. You may not notice some invertebrates because they are very, very small. Yet invertebrates live all over the earth. In fact, there are many more invertebrates than vertebrates. For example, several million tiny roundworms may live in 1 square meter of soil. That's a statistic that kind of creeps me out a little bit. No? Anyone? Yeah. How do you think Earth can support more invertebrates than vertebrates? So, one thing that we talk about that all animals and plants need in order to survive is space. And if invertebrates are much smaller than vertebrates, generally speaking, why would the Earth be able to support more of them? Go ahead and answer that one in your books. Groups of invertebrates. Sea jellies. Sea jellies have soft bodies and long, stinging body parts. The body of a sea jelly is made of mostly water. A sea jelly stuns its prey before pulling it into its stomach, right into its stomach. Most sea jellies live in the ocean. Worms. Worms are animals with long, soft bodies and no legs. Have you ever seen an earthworm in the soil? These invertebrates help keep soil healthy by by decomposing organic matter and then pooping it out. And it's like delicious, wonderful plant food after that. Great, isn't it? Mollusks. Mollusks are animals with soft body. Some mollusks include octopuses, squids, clams, and snails. Many mollusks have hard shells and eyes. Draw a picture of a mollusk, please. Arthropods. Arthropods are the largest group of invertebrates. An arthropod is an animal that has a hard covering outside its body. The bodies of an arthropod have more than one main part, and their legs have joints. Insects, spiders, and crabs are all arthropods. And then it says, look at the picture to the left. How would you classify each animal? Woo! Goes across the whole, the two, slug and an orangutan. How would you classify them? We know that the slug is an invertebrate and that the orangutan is a vertebrate. But how would you go on a little bit more in depth? Those subcategories. All right. Last page. We're not going to do this side. You're good. All right. Animal birth. Another trait that helps scientists classify animals is the way they give birth. Most animals begin in small eggs. The eggs grow to different sizes. Young animals are then born in different ways. Eggs. Many animals hatch from eggs. For example, all birds hatch from eggs. Most fish and amphibians and reptiles also hatch from eggs. Crocodiles lay eggs, as most other reptiles do. After growing in the eggs for 2 or 3 months, young crocodiles hatch from eggs. Live birth. Most mammals have live births. This means that the young animal is born instead of hatching from an egg. You may have seen images of a lion with her young cubs. She gave live birth to the cubs after being pregnant for about 4 months. Classifying, how would you classify a turtle? Cool thing, turtle skeletons are pretty weird looking. Pretty cool. Look it up if you can. And that's it. Number 11 is the last one. So remember, I want to see your picture of a reptile. And happy Friday, everybody. Bye.